Hey guys, welcome back to In the Alley. My name is Cody. Tonight, week 7. Can you believe we're already in week 7? We're almost halfway done with this season, which is just crazy to think about. And I know a lot of teams haven't played, 7 games or anything, but either way, we're almost halfway through this season. But tonight, Friday's preview, we got 2 games. We've got Iowa heading on to Green Bay, and we have San Antonio and Frisco in round 1 of the Texas rivalry. So without further ado, let's get into it with Iowa and Green Bay, and we will kind of just mosey on through there. I'll put timestamps here. There's only 2 previews, so pick your team, I guess. Watch the whole thing, please. But I get it. If you want to watch just Frisco or whatever, go for it. If you don't want to watch Iowa, or if you just don't want to watch whatever, cool, whatever. Timestamps are there. Let's go on with it. All right. Preview number 1, the earlier of the 2 games. 6:05 Central Time, YouTube and Caffeine TV, live from the Resch Center in Ashwaubenon, Wisconsin. The Iowa Barnstormers 0-4, traveling back to the Green Bay Blizzard, who are 3-1. These 2 teams have already played in Green Bay. You see it down below. We'll talk about it in a minute, but Green Bay prevailed in that game. We'll see what they can do in this one. And honestly, Green Bay 3-1, 4 points away from being 4-0. A quarter and a half, really, from being 4-0. And honestly, if it wasn't for Massachusetts' last drive in their first game, what do you want to say? If you want to get it down to like the minute, just a couple minutes away from being 4-0, if you really want to get technical with it. So a very, very good Green Bay Blizzard team, especially at home. You have a lot of home games to start, and they'll go on the road later on in the season. So you got to get these wins when you can. Let's look at the leaders here. Darius James Peterson still leading in rushing and passing. Kyle King did start the game last week against Arizona, so look for maybe he won't supplant Peterson in either of those categories here, but maybe he doesn't even start. I'll be honest with you. We'll talk about that in the 25-man roster, but if he does start, I mean, these stats might switch. So Kean Williams, 18 catches, 240 yards, and 5 touchdowns. You look at the defensive stats there. Chuck Manning with 10 tackles, 2 for a loss and 2 sacks. Christian Russell, 11.5 tackles, 1 for a loss and a sack. And Jefferson Fritz, 32 tackles, half a tackle for a loss. Now, I know he plays special teams a little bit, and he does get some tackles over there too, but still 32 tackles, it's really damn good. On the Green Bay side, Max Myler, he's missed a game himself, but still leads rushing and passing, 377 with 7 touchdowns and 2 picks, 139 yards and 7 touchdowns rushing. And Lowell Patron, you'll see him down there in the players to watch, just like Kean Williams, 15 catches, 229 and 4 touchdowns. So defensively, it's pronounced Sean. I figured that out in the last game. It's not Skeen. I know I didn't know how to pronounce it. It's Sean. So there we go. Sean Mustin, 12 tackles, 6.5 for a loss, 2.5 sacks, 1 forced fumble, 1 fumble recovery. Jalen Alexander, 7 tackles, 1 for a loss, 1 sack, 1 pick, and 1 pass breakup. And Centel Williams, 200. That'd be great. 22.5 tackles, half a tackle for a loss, and 5 pass breakups. So defenses are pretty good here. Offenses are pretty good here. A little left to be desired, maybe on the offensive side of the ball, maybe a little bit on the defensive side of the ball. But regardless, it should be a good matchup. I'll be brutally honest with you. It should be a pretty good matchup here. Players to watch, like I said, Kean Williams for Iowa, 8 catches, 85 yards, and 2 touchdowns. It's a pretty damn good stat line, especially against Arizona. And I know Arizona's kind of having a down year, but anytime you can say, hey, I got 8 catches, 85 yards, and 2 touchdowns against Arizona, you don't have to tell them the year. You just say, hey, I did it against the Rattlers. Defensive back, Simeon Gatling, 2.5 tackles, 1 for a loss, and 2 pass breakups. It's nice to get a little bit of revenge against the team that you played with the year before. So, not bad. I do look for him to have a tougher task here. Not to say that Arizona is a pushover by any means. I mean, that offense is still really, really good, but that secondary for Iowa's got to get after the wide receivers and the running backs for Green Bay this week. We'll talk a little bit about more of that in a second, but players to watch for Green Bay. Lowell Patron, 6 catches, 104 yards, and 2 touchdowns. If you look at his season total, 229, he damn near doubled what he originally had going into last week. Defensively, Rafiq Abdul-Wahid, just a monster game from him on the stat line. 4 tackles, 2 for a loss, 2 sacks, and 1 fumble recovery. I know there was some silliness in that game. That defensive line was really good. That defensive line was really, really good. And I look for more of the same here. If you can pressure Kyle King or Darius James-Peterson and really upset that running game, turn this team one-dimensional. I know I say it all the time, but that defensive line can eat. And there's a reason why Green Bay's defense is always really good. So we'll move on here. Series history. Iowa leads 15-13. I do just want to say, though, I did get this from the Green Bay preview. But when you go to like their schedule and you click on the history tab, it is completely wonky. It was like Green Bay leads this 16-7 or like 15-8 or something when I originally did like the first matchup with this. So it's nice to actually get the accurate numbers here. So 15-13, Iowa leads. However, Green Bay creeping up here. Last meeting, week 2. So not that long ago, just about a month ago, Green Bay wins by 11. We got almost 2 completely different rosters at this point here. You got some guys returning from the first game, but maybe some shake-up here or there. Regardless, Green Bay got the win. It's kept Iowa winless. Betting line, 11.5-point favorites for Green Bay. They do like to win at home. Money line is locked, and over-under of 77.5. Let's go talk about our 25-man rosters. A little bit of a shake-up, and we'll get our bet and move on with preview number 2. All right, so 25-man roster popping up here. As always, the 21 starters are the 21 players are the ones that were suited for the previous game. So I'm not sure who starts for Iowa. You see it right there. Kyle King started the game for Arizona, or against Arizona, excuse me. Over 200 yards of total offense, 6 total touchdowns. He was actually pretty good. Do you go back to that? Do you ride the hot hand? Do you bring in Darius James-Peterson? That's the question I want to raise. I'll be honest. I think Kyle King probably gives you the better chance to win here. And you started Darius James-Peterson against Green Bay. So maybe kind of switching it up here can kind of catch Green Bay off guard a little bit. Not sure. But that being said, really the only player they've really brought in from the last week and the last time we talked about this has been CJ Tate. He was with Tucson for the last couple of games. I think he might have actually, sorry, I'm scratching my knee, it itches. But I think he was a starter for Tucson in their game last week against, holy hell, who did they play last week? Did they play San Antonio? There's so many damn games. I think they played San Antonio. I might be completely wrong. No. Yes, they played San Antonio. No, wait. Yes, that's how they got their first win. This isn't the San Antonio preview. Goddamn. They brought in CJ Tate. We'll go with that. And he was with Tucson. Everything else is roughly the same. Desmond Reed was starting at linebacker last game. So does he take over there? Does Christian Russell come back in? What is the status of Ian McBurrow? That would really be my only other question on Iowa's side. On the Green Bay side, they have brought in, well, we don't know who's playing linebacker. They have brought in Michael Hendricks. They have brought in defensive back Mike Miller, who was on the team last year, but I believe he was on a season-ending injury. So does he slot in? I think the defensive backs for Green Bay have been all right. So I think Miller might just kind of slot in there as a reserve. But I think Marquise Hendricks will probably get the start at linebacker. I know Jalen Alexander got banged up in the last game. You had to have LJ Lovelace come in and play a little bit of linebacker, even though he's kind of slotted as your defensive lineman. So Marquise Hendricks played for Quad City last year, played with Sioux Falls before that, knows the game. So I could see him kind of just slotting right in there. Other than that, I think everything really stays the same unless barring anything with Myler and you have to have Skylar Perry come in. I just see more of the same here for both of those rosters. So that being said, let's go check out the best bet and we will move on with preview number 2. Best bet. Plus 11.5. These two teams are close. Green Bay won by only 11 in their first matchup. I think Iowa has been improved since their last get together. I know Green Bay looks to kind of win again, but I don't know. There's something that just kind of sparked in Iowa in the game against Arizona, and I don't know if that says anything about the Rattlers, but I think Iowa has that spark on offense now. They're bringing in C.J. Tate, which in my opinion is going to add another dynamic to the passing game. Both these teams have really good passing defenses. Both these teams are kind of middle in the pack when it comes to running and passing, and their rushing defenses are just horrible. That could favor Green Bay, but I think Iowa has enough here to at least stay within 11.5. We'll talk predictions and stuff like that at the end, but I just think Iowa kind of stays with them here. I think it's another kind of like Big Ten, kind of lower scoring, probably in the 30s, maybe low 40s, and I think Iowa just kind of stays with them. They've proven they can come back from from large deficits from last week, so I think 11.5 is a little bit too big here. I got Iowa at least covering. So let's go take a look at preview number 2. All right, preview number 2. 7:30 p.m. Central Time, YouTube and Caffeine TV, as always, live from the Comerica Center in Frisco, Texas. The 1-3 San Antonio Gunslingers head to Frisco to face the 4-0 Frisco Fighters. Two teams that are, again, kind of on opposite ends of the spectrum in the win-loss column, just like Iowa and Green Bay were. San Antonio got their first win last week. Frisco didn't need to do too much to secure their 4th win. So, yeah, that's kind of where we stand. Let's talk about our leaders when it comes to the stats department. Sam Castronova, he has played in 4 games and almost has 1,000 yards passing. You want to talk about someone that, honestly, in my personal... I bumped my desk. If you want to talk about someone who, honestly, right now might be the front runner for MVP, and I know I've said that about quite a few guys, but Sam Castronova, 20 touchdowns in 4 games. He's averaging 5 touchdowns a game, and that's not even including his rushing stats. This man is built for the Indoor Football League. Look at these stats. 745 passing, 20 with 1 interception. 1. He is so good. 43 carries, 130 yards, and 7 touchdowns. He's getting it done on the ground, too. He's using his legs and getting out of the pocket when he needs to. Talk about this guy here in a second ourselves. DJ Myers, 17 catches, 236 with 3 touchdowns of his own. Defensively, it's kind of been a mishmash on defense for San Antonio. This is where we're at. Shamori Wallace, 7 tackles, 1.5 for a loss. Ricky Wyatt, 7.5 tackles, 3 for a loss with 1 pass breakup. And Giovanni Sanders, 11.5 tackles, 1 for a loss, 1 pick, and 3 pass breakups. Defense is all right. We'll see what they can do against a Frisco Fighters offense that is really starting to catch their groove. Speaking of the Fighters, TJ Edwards, just like Castronova, leading in rushing and passing. They've really started to open up their passing game. 385 yards, 8 touchdowns, 1 pick for himself as well. You double those numbers and you pretty much get Castronova. 58 carries, 245 yards rushing, and 14 rushing touchdowns. So there's the kind of polar opposite when it comes to that. He is rushing well. Not to be outdone with the rushing, Devin McCoy, 9 catches, 161 yards, and 2 touchdowns. This guy's popped off himself. Defensively, Charles Williams, 9.5 tackles, 3.5 of those for a loss with 2 sacks. Royce C., 15.5 tackles, 1 for a loss with a half sack. And Norris Wren, 13.5 tackles, 1 pick, 1 pass breakup, 1 forced fumble, 1 fumble recovery. I believe he also has a touchdown in there as well. Defense is good. You can clearly see that in their previous game against Tulsa. The defense is good. They will need every ounce of it to stop such a high-octane offense that San Antonio has. I don't need to tell you that San Antonio leads or is at the top of the charts in the passing game. I believe Frisco is at the top of the charts, or at least one of the top 3 or 5 when it comes to the rushing department. So kind of, like I said, you have a little bit of a yin-yang here of who's going to run the ball, who's going to pass the ball. Are we just going to kind of see a shootout here? Is one team going to take the momentum and tempo and slow it down when the other team can just score in 4 seconds? So talk about players to watch here. Speaking of scoring in 4 seconds, DJ Myers, 6 catches, 75 yards, 2 touchdowns. He is starting to emerge as Castronova's go-to guy. I figured it would be Cali Rashad. Rashad has not necessarily started in the games. He's gotten his reps, but DJ Myers, Austin Upshaw, those 2 guys I believe have started in every single game this season, and Myers, to his credit, has a really good stat line. I wish those touchdown numbers honestly would be bumped up a little bit, but in his defense, he has had, off the top of my head, I think 3, possibly 4 touchdowns taken away by being held going into the end zone. So if you count those, he'd probably have about 6 touchdowns right now, but he gets open over the middle of the field, which causes the defender to literally grab him around the waist and force the ref to call a defensive pass interference or a defensive holding. Otherwise, this guy would have more yards, more catches, more touchdowns. He's good. He's getting open. I look for him to have, honestly, a really, really good game. He's got to go up against a tough secondary, however. Speaking of defense, Ricky Wyatt, last game against Tucson, 4 tackles, 2 for a loss, and 1 pass breakup. I get it. Tucson was starting a wide receiver at quarterback. Well, he did play quarterback a little bit in college and before that, but regardless, not here, not in the IFL. So stats for them are going to be, they're still the stats, but kind of take it with a grain of salt. I look for this defense to, like I said, they have to step up and stop the running game here. But as I alluded to, the passing game is starting to get going. Devin McCoy is a very, very good deep threat. That's not to say that you can't find Cole Blackman or Spencer Tiers or anyone down there at the other end of the field as well on a deep shot, but Edwards is able to scramble. He's able to rush. He's able to just take off when he needs to. He's got 14 rushing touchdowns. I know a lot of those are probably in goal-to-go situations or maybe some sneaks, but regardless, he is getting his snaps. He is getting his yardage on the ground. You have to tame a 2-headed monster if you've got Martez Carter and Jimmy Robinson. We'll see who starts in that regard with the 25-man roster. It's just both these teams are 2 very high, potent offenses in their own regard. Apologies. I apologize. Players to watch for Frisco. TJ Edwards. Who else? The reigning MVP, man. 14 of 17. 153 yards and 4 touchdowns. He missed 3 passes. 3. That's it. Rushed 17 times for 57 yards and 3 touchdowns. He had 7 total touchdowns last week against Tulsa with 210 yards of total offense. You stop him, you probably win the game. Defensive back Lionel McConnell. Last game, 4 tackles, 3 for a loss, 1 pick, 1 pass breakup. And like I said, you have to go up against a tough secondary. Lionel McConnell is showing out. He played wide receiver last year. He has made one hell of a transition. Norris Wren, 13.5 tackles on the season. He has his own pick, his own pass breakup. It's not to even, discredit Ethan Castleberry, who was leading, I believe, in the tackle department there. I wanted to put Norris Wren there because he's got cooler stats. But not to discredit Ethan Castleberry, he is having one hell of a season himself. So that secondary against this wide receiving core of San Antonio is going to be just a masterpiece. Who can win that battle? This is the first ever meeting between these two. Obviously, San Antonio coming over from the National Arena League. Frisco's been here for a couple of years. They haven't played each other. Congrats. Here you go. I don't know what they're going to call this rivalry. I hope it's something cool, not like, I don't know, Texas two-step or something. I don't know. But there you go. There's my submission for the cool rivalry name. You've got the Red River Rumble against Tulsa and Frisco. And the Texas two-step sounds kind of cool. But minus 16.5 for Frisco. No money line, over under 102. It's a big spread. Let's go take a look at the 25-man roster. We'll take a look at our bets, and we will kind of give a little bit of a recap at the very end here. All right, 25-man rosters. Not really much to report. I'll be brutally honest with you. It's tough with San Antonio. They don't update their roster page on their website. You just kind of have to use your best judgment and see who they bring in when it comes to when the game starts, or if you can find anything on social media. They did bring in Keith McGee and Darren Primes, who played for Duke City and Vegas, I believe, last season. Keith McGee, I believe, is a rookie. Anyone else on that quick rundown? I don't believe. Savante Davenport, he's a defensive back there, number 2. It's blanking me. I know I can't remember if he's a rookie or not, but regardless, if he's not, I apologize. I can't remember where he played or what his experience is, but actually I remember he did play AFL ball for a little bit. He played for the Washington Valor. But yeah, so that's really it for San Antonio. On the Frisco side, everything kind of stays the same. They brought in Tyron Hunt on the offensive line. They did just sign Brad Namdar with the coolest kicker number of all time. Other than that, not really much else to report. That's your 25-man roster plus 25-man roster, whatever. Like I said, should be a good game. Should be a nice, fun game between these two. I'm looking forward to it. Let's go take a look at our bet, and we will just give a nice little roundup at the end. Best bet, plus 16.5. That is a huge number. That's over 2 touchdowns, and I get it. Frisco destroyed Tulsa. San Antonio scores points in droves, though. So I don't really know where Vegas is coming from when it comes to a 16.5 point spread. I'm not calling San Antonio to win the game. They'll see that in a prediction, but 16.5 is a pretty big spread. I think San Antonio, I wouldn't say they can keep it close, but if you're going to run the ball with Frisco and keep tempo and do things like that, if you want to beat this spread of 17 points, San Antonio is going to have to make mistake after mistake after mistake, and Frisco is going to have to capitalize on it. So I think San Antonio is becoming more disciplined. There's still some stuff to clean up defensively. There's still the penalties. I mean, everyone gets penalties, but Frisco's just got some stuff to clean up. The offense is fine. I honestly think that they're figuring it out defensively. They've gone through some guys on defense that I'm not sure if they'll continue, but I look for this to be plus 16.5. I'm not going to call it easy money. It'll bite me in the ass if I do, but that is just too big of a spread for me to not pick San Antonio based on what their offense does. So let's go wrap up. All right, so this feels a little sacrilegious, if that's even the term I want to use. We don't have Aaron's IFL corner this week. He's taking care of some personal matters, so hope everything's all right with you, Aaron, if you're watching this. If not, I send my regards. Hopefully everything's fine. But that being said, we won't have him this week. He should be back next week. We'll move on. I just have my 2 picks. I've kind of explained everything in the previews. I guess I'll dive a little bit further into it a little bit. Pick number 1, 41-32. I've got Green Bay winning. I just think Green Bay is the better team. But what I saw with Iowa against Arizona, I think I think Iowa has a chance to kind of stay with Green Bay. They might fade a little bit late, and like I said, I'm just a little bit worried about how Green Bay's defense is going to do against this offense. I think you do have the wild card of, are they practicing for Kyle King? Are they going to be able to shut him down? That's really it. On the other side, it's really more of the same from Green Bay. I mean, Max Myler missed a game. Skylar Perry fit right in like a freaking another piece of a puzzle. Can Iowa slow that down? They let 49 points up against them, against Arizona. They put up points of their own. I don't necessarily see this as a high-scoring affair like that, but I do think Green Bay's defense has the opportunity to really show out here and say, hey, we've beaten you once and held you to, 24 points. We can do it again. So I've got Green Bay winning. I think Iowa can stay with them, but ultimately I think Green Bay just kind of wears them down. Second pick, I've got a very close game here. Frisco 51, San Antonio 48. I think these two teams are, like I've said in the preview, yin and yang. One runs, one passes, but the other side of the ball, or the other side of the coin, they're still pretty good at. Like I said, Frisco's opening that passing game. San Antonio can run the ball. But it really comes down to who's going to control tempo. I have no doubt in my mind that San Antonio can just chuck it deep. No doubt about it. Can Frisco control the clock? Can they force San Antonio to go into third downs and fourth downs and make mistakes? That's what happened against Tulsa. They forced them to make mistake after mistake, and it came back to bite them. They destroyed them. San Antonio puts up damn near 60 points, man. They're one of the best, if not the best, offense in the league right now when it comes to passing. I think they go toe for toe. I truly, truly do. I will not be surprised if San Antonio upsets Frisco. I don't have it. It would not shock me. I do think Frisco's too good at home, though. They've had one true road game last week. They destroyed their opponent. They're coming back home with that momentum, beating a rival. Now they get to deal with the Texas two-step of San Antonio and what they bring to the table. I think Frisco wins it. I do. I think it's close. I think they do land the last punch, though. I think these two guys go at it for, 10. Apologies, my throat still sucks. I think these guys go at it for, 10 rounds, 12 rounds, 15 rounds, however long a boxing match is nowadays. I think Frisco lands the haymaker and knocks them out late in the game. Holds onto the ball, kneels it out. They win it by 3, 51-48. Not to be outdone, I think San Antonio has a chance to win it. Frisco just makes one more play. But that's it for me. Like I said, I hope Aaron gets to feeling better and his personal matters and everything like that get solved, whatever they may be. I'm not going to divulge into it. Just hope everything's going good for you, Aaron, if you're watching this. We'll be back Friday night, recap both of these games. Saturday morning to preview the 3-game slate on Saturday. And then Sunday, we got 3 more games as all 16 teams are playing 8 games this week. That's it. So, taking off here, guys. You know what to do. Like, comment, subscribe, all that stuff. And we will just mosey on through almost halfway through the season. But until then, guys, see you.